Hi, for those of you who don't know, I'm Frezzman, and for the first time on this channel, I'd like to give my opinion on something in the form of a review.
Hey!
Video Game High School is quite possibly the worst show I've ever seen. Not because of the awkward or abysmal acting, not because of the numerous continuity errors, but for its flagrant misrepresentation of any person who plays video games. Now, I can accept a few changes here and there. After all, it would cost a lot more to make a fake video game to then have the characters play it, and I can even understand the need to show the characters in-game through live-action acted sequences interchanged with footage of them at their computers, but this is not how you do it. Putting suspension of disbelief aside, it is hard to accept the game and technology in the show made in the modern day, let alone in 2012 when the first season came out. It's hard to accept anything when half the props in the show make zero sense. So I thought we'd take a look at the items that they use to play said games. I should also add that the show takes place in the modern day, not the future as I've heard people speculate, and if I remember the IMDb page even says that. For the FPS team, they have this bizarre setup. Wireless monitors, weird half keyboard, half mouse setup that has no wires. Also, I should also add that at no point do you ever see computer tower. So as to how these games are being played, what they're being played on, and how effectively they're being played fails on almost every front. And as I said earlier, I could accept this if the series was taking place at some undetermined point in the future, but they reference the year each season as it takes place on a couple of occasions. The characters who are part of the FPS team also play a weird amalgamation of Battlefield and Counter-Strike without ever really showing how this game would actually function, with characters constantly breaking the rules of conventional game design. What with the characters doing trick shots, flips, bouncing grenades on top of people's heads, and then firing without looking, this is also the tip of a weirdly written, poorly acted iceberg. The characters are some of the weirder parts of the show. The structure of certain characters feels like it's set up to every half-baked high school anime ever made. The main character is a standard goofy hero who ends up being really good at the thing he likes and then gets the girl, matched only by the idiot best friend who he's at odds with later in the series, complete with slow dramatic music to set the tone that these characters are sad. I should add that the idiot character becomes involved with extortion to get votes for his girlfriend who is running for student body president for whatever reason. I should add the idiot character's girlfriend also acts as a foil to the idiot character, and she happens to be this bizarre, uptight, neurotic, clean freak who also, for some reason, acts like Data from Star Trek named Key. And then there's Brian D's girlfriend, who's given the most stereotypical name for the cool girl stereotype, named Jenny Matrix, which you couldn't have stretched harder for something that sounded cooler. I also think it's bizarre that character archetypes are made by their screen names, which also for some reason happen to be their actual names. Like there's no separation, there's no layer of separation between that, and I think that weird kind of writing of a character is also present in the principal character portrayed by Harley Morenstein. I'm probably mispronouncing that, but he's just this abrasive, borderline abusive asshole who's just mean-mugging the main characters every chance he gets. I'm not saying Harley is a horrible person, I'm just saying he's a really poorly written, gruff character. I wish I knew what audience this show is for. It's fun and lighthearted, then has serious and downright depressing moments that are supposed to make you feel awful and fall flat. The thing is, in these moments, I would feel something, whether it be sadness, anger, or even happiness, that are completely ruined by the characters that I hate. I haven't had a show in a long time that made me feel the opposite of what was intended. I genuinely dislike these characters. Brian D is a whiner that always seems to win in the end, and then there's Ted, the idiot who actually had me questioning how he actually functions, and how he, the uptight character, seems to love him regardless of him appearing to be a burden in most social situations. The worst character I believe that permeates the entire series is Shotbot. Shotbot is used to reiterate points made by the main host, while doing dance moves that I'm sure the writers thought would be hilarious, but ends up being really hard to watch. Hell, they even introduce a romantic subplot with Shotbot cross-dressing and falling in love with the main villain character from the first season named The Law. The Law is portrayed by a guy named Brian Ferenzi, and it almost throughout the entire second season of the show, he's in his underwear, eating junk food, playing video games, and generally acting like a nutcase, and I think he's having a lot of fun while doing it. I think he might be the only person having fun while doing it. The character of The Law goes from being this weird kind of omnipotent villain character in the first season to being a downright joke in the second season, but then they keep doubling down on that joke over and over and over again until it finally culminates in this weird dramatic scene where Shotbot sacrifices himself because he loves the law that much, and it's not good. On top of odd choices, I mean, there are odd celebrity cameos kind of sprinkled throughout the show. I mean, there was a moment where Tony Hawk tried to run for president. I wish I was making that up. Chris Hardwick shows up for a minute, and I know fucking Marvel legend himself, Stan Lee, shows up for a cameo, and which I found myself almost having this weird gut reaction where I kind of threw my hands at the screen and went, "What the hell are you doing here, Stan? Get off the screen, Stan! The fuck are you doing here, Stan?" And to kind of veer off topic, I kind of want to talk about how certain groups and subgroups of gamers are weirdly depicted and stereotyped. I mean, the FPS team is almost treated like a military group, and the role players are a bunch of weirdos so out of touch with reality that they only seem to find value in in-game items like swords and loot. The real-time strategy team is full of narcissistic assholes who seem to be constantly trying to scam their friends and family out of money and really anything that's not nailed down. And for some reason, social gamers, like people who play any sort of Facebook game or mobile game, are treated like these weird backwoods country folk with like southern accents, and they live in hay and they use like computers from the early 2000s. Then there's this weird group of people who play this weird facsimile of Mario Kart where they're in this weird elitist club in the basement of the school. And then there's this other racing club called the Drifters, made of pretentious numbskulls who apparently play arcade ports of racing games that save user data on USB thumb drives that look like cars for whatever reason. Oh, I know why, because they're playing a fucking racing game. But the problem with all of these clubs together is that they seem to suffer from the same out-of-touch writing that plagues this entire series, and it builds this weird stigma and seems to do more harm than good when trying to show these comical versions of cliques that certain gamers may fit into. And it makes wanting to be part of these groups almost seem embarrassing. I'm a person who loves all types of games. I love role-playing games, I love first-person shooters, even an RTS here and there, and even certain racing games now and again. But this show's depiction of these types of games and the people who play them is embarrassing, and it hurts to watch. The show, for the most part, is this weird, embarrassing mess that I'm happy I found. And I know I'm really late to the party, but I feel like it still hurts. You know? It's such a grand train wreck. It's just such, you can't look away once you start looking at it. And every time it tries to have a sad moment, it comes off as funny, or it doesn't deserve that sad moment. And then when an actual joke shows up, or a funny meme, as the kids call it, show up, you just feel nothing. There's nothing. It plateaus. This show is literally the embodiment of the idea of a show that has to relate to a gamer culture and everything that entitles. I spent most of my time watching this show with my mouth agape, just desperately trying to grasp exactly what the hell is going on or what the joke was supposed to be. I've met very few shows that I would consider a visual slap in the face, and I've been playing video games for longer than I care to admit, and I feel that this show is a complete misrepresentation of everything that is supposed to be the idea of a video game player, or a gamer, as the, you know, people trying to relate to the youths would use. I would say for overall, this show is just no. Mm-mm.